let me go ahead and introduce our first speaker for this morning's session. We've gained some insights into the efforts and plans of the public sector, so now it's time to hear from the private sector, starting with HSBC. So HSBC is a brand that's been operating in the Philippines since 1875, and for the company, sustainability means embedding environmental, social, and governance considerations into financial decisions to promote long-term growth and address climate change. So, through the company's various sustainability initiatives, HSBC has received the Euromoney's Award for the Philippines' Best Bank for Sustainable Finance in 2025. Today, specifically, we are joined by a respected leader in his field. Our speaker has been working within the ESG and sustainability space for over 9 years now. He provides support and insight to enable sustainable finance strategies, as well as provides feedback in partnership with risk and compliance on ongoing policy developments and external engagement with key stakeholders in relation to sustainability. So, that said, ladies and gentlemen, let's all welcome HSBC's Head of Sustainability, Mr. Ceejay Hernandez.
Great. Everyone, can you hear me clearly? Hi. Okay, great. Hi, I'm Ceejay Hernandez. I am the Head of Sustainability for HSBC. And I understand today is a bit of a very morning presence. No? Good morning, everyone. Are you good? Or you feel that, okay, let's try to make it a bit more interactive. I wanted to know more about my audience today, this morning. Anyone here majoring in finance? Can you raise your hands? Okay, everyone's like busy. Raise your hands. Are you all in college? Raise your hands. Yes. Para magising tayo konti. So yeah, alright, we can move a bit. Yeah, okay. Anyone here from engineering and science? How about arts? Arts, okay. Health? Okay, saan kayo galing, guys? What are your courses? Can I hear some of the courses here? Business. Okay. Anyone from the business side? Okay. All right. Accounting? None? Management? Okay. All right. Marketing? Okay, there you go. All right. So there's a lot of marketing people. All right. Hi, again, I'm Ceejay Hernandez. Very glad to be here at HSBC. As was mentioned, it's very important for us to engage with our stakeholders, not just our customers, but the community within where we operate, to ensure that we are all moving towards a sustainable future. And part of that really, and actually a central piece of that, is what we're talking about today, which is financial literacy. Okay, second question from you guys. Raise your hands from 1 to 5, 5 meaning very knowledgeable. Who here is at level 1 in financial literacy? Like, I have no clue, I wanted to learn more. 1? Okay, 2? Anyone from 2? Like, I know a bit of the terms, but it's still all not super familiar with me. 3? Anyone 3? You think, okay, so you're familiar with saving, you're familiar with, budgeting, which is very good because during my time in college, I am not very good at budgeting. 4, you think you're investing already? Anyone who's into investments? And 5, anyone who's into very much into financial literacy? None? Okay, so not everyone raised their hands. They're probably a 6. No? No? Yeah? Okay, no. Alright, just kidding. Okay, so what is financial literacy, right? So financial literacy is actually rooted around making sure that everyone has basic grasp of what, I like actually the answers earlier in the video, right? When you talk about what is financial literacy, it's intentional use of money as a tool, right? Making sure you know how you budget, how you save. Very good, right? So in the UNDP, it's a very important pillar because it helps equalize families and individuals that have that doesn't have the same level of capital, right? And we'll talk about that later. So this is your financial literacy 101, right? Again, I want to spend my time to make sure that we're all on the same page. Right? Game? Okay, sige. Good morning. Let's go. Okay. So, what is financial literacy? See, a farmer says, why would I buy insurance for my rice field? I can use the money to buy more farm implements. Who here is aware of insurance? You know how insurance works? Wow, okay. Another scenario. This is one from the SME. She says, glad my cousin was able to lend me money to start this small business, although he asked for twice the money next year. Well, and then last one, which is probably a bit more closer to you guys, I don't know. But wow, this crypto game is so cool. I'm earning so much money. I should probably put all my savings here and maybe get some money for my friends so they get to invest in me. Right? So we'll talk about these three scenarios today, right? And kind of see what the different facets of financial literacy can be. Right? Game? Okay. So first one, farmers, right? Majority of farmers right now tend to borrow money to buy their farm implements. When you say farm implements, it's the seedling, it's the fertilizer, it's the preparation of the field. And unfortunately, as of the moment, the intake of insurance in the farming sector, in the agriculture sector, is very low. Can you guess? Can you shout a number, a percentage of the number of farmers in the Philippines who buy insurance? 10%? Okay, wow, that's so, okay, that's not, di naman, 10%. Higher, a bit higher. Okay, isa, no, 10, 20, and it's around 20 to 30%. 20 to 30% of farmers, right? Who here thinks that's irresponsible? Raise your hands. Okay, thanks, Philip. Anyone else who thinks that's irresponsible? A bit, no? Parang if you kind of contrast that to our every year calamities or damages to agriculture and livelihoods, it's a kind of a bit of an irresponsible. Anyone aware of last year's total agriculture damage brought by calamity? It's around 800 million. Okay, just the calamities, right? So I think, okay, Tatang, why are you not buying insurance? Right? And when you speak to farmers, some of the realities is, well, number one, you know what? I only have this amount of money. Rather than getting insurance, I'd rather use it for my family today. Right? Or another angle we've heard is, you know what? I've tried buying insurance before, but when the disaster happened and I claimed for the damages, the insurance company didn't get back to me for months. I wasn't able to recuperate anything. It's a waste of money. Right? I mean, it's a bit complex, no? And the reality is with financial literacy, and again, I wanted to kind of widen your perspective, right? You said you guys know how to save, how to budget. In terms of financial literacy, it also means how can we enable people like Tata to get meaningful access to insurance? Because as you mentioned, guys, earlier, it's important for his crops, right? Right, so another is Ate, right? So Ate is part of the SMEs. Oh, I was about to ask, what percentage of businesses here in the Philippines is SME? Andyan na siya. It's 99% of the businesses in the Philippines are MSME. What's MSME? Micro, small, medium enterprises, right? So as you can see, it's the backbone of our economy if they're 99% of the businesses here, right? But the challenges with micro MSMEs is that sometimes, or most of the times, they're personal businesses. Anyone here who's trying to start their business? Wala pa? Okay. I hope someday you try, no? Be a bit more entrepreneurial. The challenges is sometimes it's very hard to access formal financing. Right? So what are formal financing? Formal financing is really financing coming from formal institutions. That's very so like meaning banks, right? And the challenge with not having access to formal financing is that sometimes the cost of capital is very high. Anyone here who's familiar with cost of capital? Okay, what is the cost of capital? What's another term for cost of capital? Right, interest rates, right? Right, so it's because when you borrow, the cost of borrowing is the interest on top, right? Can you guess what's the borrowing rate for when you borrow from the central bank? from Sir Ben Jokno earlier? You cannot borrow directly, that's right. But what's the treasury rate? So essentially the starting point rate, would you know? It's around 5-6%. Right? What's the interest rate for, so meaning if you borrow 100 pesos today, the next year you pay what? 106, correct. Good job. So that's an annual rate of 6%. So what about personal loans in the bank? 8 would be very generous. Maybe around 10 to 12. 10 to 12%. Right? So when you borrow 100 pesos this year, you pay next year, what? 112. Yes, perfect. Okay. Uno sa math. Okay, next is really, what about microfinancing? So home credit, Asian-Link, ano ba? Cebuana Holier, I guess, also provides financing. GCash also provides financing. Would you know? 18%. Something around that line. 15 to 18%. 1.6% per month. Right? What about yung kapatid ni ate? Earlier, nakapangutang siya. Right? Pero sige, papautangin kita 100 pesos today, pero next year dapat 200 yan, Diba? So without financial literacy, people sometimes people will not understand the options that they have. Right? So what if si ate may access pala siya kay GCash, kunwari, or kay Maya, or any of the microfinancing. Imagine an interest rate of 100% per annum versus 18%. Right? So that gap, that kind of savings, of course, medyo okay ako dun sa 100%. But it does happen. Sometimes it happens, right? Loan sharks is around 30 to 40%. Right? Loan sharks. The 5-6, I think, was what you're more familiar colloquially with. Right? So with financial literacy and the rise of digitalization of payments, what really happened was there's an increase in financing access. Which is good because, again, ate will have more options, but without proper financial literacy, it can go into really bad debt as well, right? So it has to come hand in hand. And that goes to before I go to the next example, really, this is another slide, and it really, I think, on the SME standpoint, right, on both your personal financial literacy, but also thinking ahead of what you want to do with your life. When you participate in the financial sector, what you realize is that there's a spectrum of what it means for financial literacy and inclusion. Right? For someone with high net worth, it's probably getting more investments. Right? Stocks, bonds. Right? Someone who, in the middle class, working class, is probably getting the right mortgages. Right? How do you build wealth and stuff like that. Someone from the MSME might be getting better interest rates, or even investors at an equity level, right? But someone from the very low part of the income ladder, it can mean savings, it can mean having a startup capital, right? So all of it's a spectrum when you look at financial literacy. And for example, for us HSBC, we both engage the high net worths as our customers and all that. We also work on philanthropy with ICM to work for financial literacy for the ultra poor. So ultra poor means they have a daily income as a family of around 50 to 100 pesos. Yeah, so sometimes kasi when we talk about financial literacy, people will think, okay, you need to save. But sometimes the reality is that the idea of saving is underlined with privilege, right? You're able to save because you have enough for the day. Right? So what are communities that doesn't have enough for the day, what do they do? Right? How can they go out of poverty? And that's really where the impact of financial literacy and access to financial services is very meaningful towards society. Cool? Okay. Right. So especially right now, it's very important for all of us to have financial literacy because the products that are available for us is exploding, right? So anyone here who played Axie Infinity ba yun? May nagano ba sa inyo before? Right? Anyone here familiar with blockchain technology? Blockchain, right? Okay, cryptocurrency. Anyone here investing in a cryptocurrency? Anyone here interested in investing in cryptocurrency? No, cryptocurrencies are good. I mean, I'm not saying you should do it, right? But it is a form of financial security, right? But the problem is we don't know. Right? So it's a very good example of financial literacy because it's very unfamiliar for us, right? So with unfamiliarity, there's high risk, right? And when you talk about financial literacy earlier, you talked about managing risks and savings, right? So without financial literacy, it's also exposing people towards undue financial risks, right? That's also for you, right? So understanding what you mean when you do saving, when you do time deposits, when you do bonds, and then equity, and then other more explorative investments is different. But also, I think for young people, financial literacy is also opening opportunities, right? Understanding that there's a real huge world outside of campus that is actually basing its growth and operations towards people who know how to handle money, right? So that's why we have the financial sector, right? So that's why we have the banking sector because underlying all of it is really people who know how to manage money, more so how to manage risk, right? And so by being financially literate, that also opens up opportunities for you in certain sectors. Okay? Yeah, so for us, again, apart from making sure we educate our customers in this different type of instruments and challenges within the financial sector, right? Cybersecurity, for example, and whatnot. We also work with top universities. We invited LaSalle last year. This is this year. This is a business case competition where we invite students to ideate solutions based on real-world problems of corporates. And that starts with financial literacy, right? When you ask yourself, okay, how can this company make money? Or how can this company manage a transition or a cost spending? That in itself is is an evolution of financial literacy. And hence it's very important because again, as I told you earlier, it's a spectrum. It becomes different whenever you talk to different kind of groups or people. All right. So that's financial literacy, but now I want to move slightly off tangent and talk about, okay, why are we talking about sustainability and financial literacy together, right? As was discussed earlier by Governor Ben Jokno, it's a foundation of a strong and resilient economy, right? Financial literacy. But I want to flip it, right? What about sustainability? I like what someone from the video said earlier, that financial literacy is also intentional use of finances as a tool to achieve your objectives. So that's what we do every day in HSBC, is that we use financial tools to help spur a sustainable economy. Right? So, usually when you talk about sustainability, people will think about what? When you think about sustainability, what's the first thing that comes in mind? Trees? Who thought trees? Taas ng kamay, okay lang. Okay, oh yeah. Who thought water? Wala. Air. Emissions. Right? That's very climate. Who thought about climate when we're talking about sustainability? Yeah, that's a very pressing risk, right? But nobody thinks about banks. Like what do banks have to do with sustainability? We don't burn a lot of coal. We don't burn money, yeah, right? But the reality is, if you are in the financing sector, you're actually one of the more powerful ones to drive sustainability. Why? Because the growth of a sector follows the direction of money. Right? So where you put your money, where you put your investments, it encourages growth. Right? So when a large bank like us, invest in high-emitting sectors, then that sector will grow. Right? So now, the good thing is, with financial literacy and the tools that are available for us today, we can reverse that trend, right? So that's why strong financial literacy can collectively support growth of sustainable industries. How? Right? So similar to how we can choose sustainable source products, right? Who here use reusable straws? Ganyan. Who here stop using plastic packaging? Kahit na soggy yung food with the paper packaging, right? Similarly, on your financial decisions, individually and as a career in the future, there is so much more opportunity now to spur sustainability using financial literacy, right? So very basic, for example, who here invests in stocks or funds? You want, right? Great. Oh, this is from GCash. Okay, right. So right now, for example, in GCash, right, if you're investing in funds, you can search there sustainable, and you'll find Sustainable Development Fund from ATRAM. And what's the focus of that? Oh, it's a group of happy with the jump board. It's a group of equities that are focused on sustainable development. Right? Or if you want to actively manage your funds, for example, there are approaches such as having, certain rules, right? Number one, I don't want to invest my money on companies that are involved in coal. I don't want to, even if they have like a 20% year-on-year IRR returns. Right? So similar to how we decide what we eat, right? We want to source locally. Similar to why we don't want to use plastic straws because of the turtles. Equally now, our investments are ways for us to control and provide our own statement and say, hey, we want to be sustainable. Right? And that's happening. That's happening right now. And I want to push it further, right? Once you move to the workplace, like me as a sustainability practitioner, I want to invite you to think about sustainability related roles. Or how do you inculcate sustainability to the roles where you will be part of? Because the reality is, there's still a lot of things to do, right? We're still far from 1.5 degrees of the Paris Agreement, and the Philippines still needs to achieve 35% renewable energy by 2030. But the reality is more and more business sound, financial literacy, opportunities are overlapping with sustainable operations. How can I say that? Think about renewable energy. What's the lowest cost of energy source right now? Is it coal? You sure? Lowest cost of energy without systems. It's solar panels. Solar panels dropped 1,000% of their prices since a decade ago. Right? So now the conversation around sustainability is not just about doing good with the environment. It's part of it still. But the reality is we're understanding more and more that it's a business imperative to do it. It makes money to be sustainable. So sustainability and financial literacy, more than ever, comes hand in hand. All right? So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me later. But I do hope I kind of give you some questions to answer today. And maybe think about what you want to do in the future and what you want to do about your financial management stuff. All right? So, yeah. Thank you and good morning.
All right. Thank you very much, CJ.